My name is David Crowter. I'm Head of Private Client Services here at Carpenter Box, and I'm just going to take a few moments to talk about and react to yesterday's autumn statement. I think the Chancellor had trailed in advance that everyone will be paying a bit more tax, and we've seen that through the freezing of tax allowances. So one of the big tax collections is through the freezing of the personal allowance and the tax rate bands for the most part, and that's certainly where he collects a lot of his money from. There are some adjustments to some other allowances, so the point at which you pay 45p in the pound will come down from 150 to 125. So there's an extra £1,200 a year being paid by those who earn 150,000 or more, and the Chancellor saying, actually, we want those perhaps with the broadest shoulders in his view to pay a little bit more in that regard. I think the point that's relevant on the allowances side is that things like the dividend allowance are being reduced. So at the moment, you can have £2,000 of dividends free of tax. That's coming down to £1,000 in April and to £500 in the following April. So these are fairly small allowances. They don't collect a lot of money. I think what it does mean for a lot of people in that sort of category is that you now might be moving into having to prepare a tax return when you didn't have to before. So if you're receiving £1,000 of dividends at the moment, you might not need to do a tax return. From April, you might not need to do a tax return, but from April the following year, you might have to do a tax return and pay a very small amount of tax. In that example, it's about £45 due on your £1,000 dividends from April of 2024. So the reduction of some of those allowances probably bringing a number of people into the need to do a self-assessment tax return. Now, there's certainly a lot of commentary in advance of the budget about all the sorts of changes that you might see, and a lot of noise actually this time around things like capital gains tax and whether that would change or any of the release would change. Mercifully, no change to the tax rates of CGT and most of the release. What will be reduced is the amount you can have CGT free each year, so that's coming down in the same way that the dividend allowance is being reduced. It halved over the next couple of years. So again, possibly more people being brought within the self-assessment regime, but certainly a number of conversations with clients in advance of the 17th about whether CGT would change. If it goes up, do you need to do something in advance? Mercifully, there's been no change in that position. So those are really the key highlights of yesterday's budget as far as sort of private client tax is concerned. I think there was certainly something that I don't think he mentioned in his speech, which might be of interest to those of you who invest under the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. So CDIS is a suite of tax reliefs available to those who invest in private limited companies, new startups, and those reliefs are being widened. So if that's you, actually there may be some additional scope to make those investments from April 2023 onwards. So those are just a few highlights from yesterday's autumn statement. There'll be plenty more information on our website, www.carpenterbox.com, and please get in touch if you've got any more queries.